on to our session. So glad to have you here. It really is a pleasure to share some incredible news with you today about Generation Power and the day unto itself. Today's going to be outstanding, and seeing more people rolling in, it just builds that excitement of where we are together right now as a community to learn about Generation Power and to learn about Indigenous youth related towards clean energy. So most folks are joining now. I'm wondering if, Sam, we might want to pass the floor over to Terry Lynn.
Yes, let's do that. Terry Lynn is joining us first thing this morning with a very exciting announcement. Terry Lynn, over to you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, actually, from where I am. Nin Deluisit Terry Lynn Morrison, Aktlewi Ak Nin Wigi, Gespegawagi Listaguch. My name is Terry Lynn Morrison, and I am the Director of Partnerships and Communications here at ICE. And before we get started on our programming, I wanted to share a little bit about ICE as a not-for-profit social enterprise and our partnership opportunities. So as a not-for-profit social enterprise, we want to create partnerships that have the mutual interest of promoting Indigenous involvement in clean energy projects that also protect the environment while taking actions to battle climate change. Our focus is to align ourselves with others that want to empower positive and social economic outcomes for Indigenous communities. Some of the things that we look for in our partners is partners who are willing to have intensive collaboration, who are committed to building capacity of Indigenous peoples, are committed to the energy transition, and also will support the work that we're doing at a global front. We are set up to accept charitable contributions and issue tax receipts through the Ottawa Community Foundation, and I'll drop the link in the chat if anybody's interested. And also, I welcome you to reach out to me if you want to learn more about partnership opportunities with us here over at ICE. But that's not the only reason why I came to speak to you all today. I wanted to share some news about an exciting partnership that we just finished wrapping up negotiations on yesterday. So we have MasterCard Foundation, who came in as our newest partner, and they're going to be providing ICE with funding through a contribution of just over $1.1 million, woohoo, to support Indigenous youth participation in our ICE programming, such as the Generation Power that you're going to hear about today and our 2020 Catalyst program. And this partnership is going to take place over the next 3 years. So the funding is going to be used towards 80 young Indigenous leaders by providing employment experiences and capacity building in the clean energy sector, while empowering them to pursue long-term careers in this field. So we want to thank the MasterCard Foundation for their commitment to empowering Indigenous youth. And now I'm going to turn the floor back over to my colleagues, Samantha and Ricky Lee, who are going to share the exciting Generation Power program with you all. Well, Aliok, have a great conference.
Incredible. Thank you. Thank you so much, Terry Lynn. 1.1 million is outstanding. Thank you to MasterCard Foundation. And without further ado, we're super excited to share with you about Generation Power and what we have in this moment. A lot of heart, soul, spirit, and thought has gone into the creation of this program. But before diving a bit further, we would love to introduce ourselves and then share a little bit about the rest of the team as well. So, Sam, shall I start?
Yeah, go for it, Ricky Lee.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone, good day. I'll share in my language as I'm learning and connecting, honoring those ancestral roots of where I come from. Uklama amitla, hu pachas aksup, hu chaklas aksup, nu chalnov at his dakshitla suma as. So I share, I am Hupachesit Uchuklasit Uchalnath upon my mother's side, and my father's ancestry is a mystery. I grew up in Port Alberni, BC, Vancouver Island, West Coast, and my journeys and endeavors here are quite remarkable. Just very blessed and grateful to be here in this moment. I also shared that my name is Amitla, which means Blessed One in Uchalnath. Grateful for the naming ceremony that happened last year and receiving that name from my great uncle. And I love life, and just, again, grateful to be here in this role. And that's a little bit about me. I'll pass it over to Sam, who will share about herself as well.
Ashe, bon matin, Samantha Matters, Dishinakasham. Hello, good morning. My name is Samantha Matters. I'm joining you today from Edmonton on Treaty 6 territory, the territory where I was born and raised. I carry both Métis and mixed settler ancestry, and my Métis family has roots in the Meadow Lake region of Saskatchewan, and those are kin that I am actively reconnecting with today, and reconnecting with my culture as a Métis person, which is something that we were not raised with as children, but something that actively informs all of the work that I do, both here with the ICE team and in my role at Future Ancestors Services. So I'm just so grateful to be joining you all today and to be sharing a bit about Generation Power, which we are here to introduce you to. But before we do that, I also want to point out two of the other lovely faces that you see on your screen. Erin Stewart, who is the Director of Programs at ICE, as well as Leonie Mora, who is our Youth Programming Coordinator. And I would love it so much if you could pop into the chat and say hi to them, because they are part of this amazing team that we have working on Generation Power. And with that, we're going to get into it, and we're going to tell you about this brand new program that we are so excited to be working on and to be sharing with y'all. So back to you, Rahili.
Perfect. Yeah, it definitely, with the team coming together in this moment, it's remarkable to see the journey it's been upon. And Generation Power, its name unto itself, when we think of the generation of now going forward to the future, of 7 generations moving forward, and we think of power both in an energy sense, but also that empowerment of youth who are directing and creating that transformative change for the betterment of our communities. We look at Generation Power and where we are, and if I were to ask all of you, thinking about the state of our world right now, what do you believe are the challenges that we are faced with when you think of our communities, when you think about Mother Earth, when you think about what is existing around you? What sparks, or what is something that comes to mind? And I was journaling a few days ago, really a couple weeks ago at this point, but thinking about this moment in time is really quite historic in considering the global pandemic of Corona and how folks have rallied together in handling that the best that we can. And this showcases the interdependent nature of all of us as humans across the planet. So considering the state of our world right now, the global pandemic, the climate crisis related to our environment, and the need for Indigenous worldviews at the forefront of environmental transformation, the creation and implementation of this capacity building program is timely. We look at the problems presented in front of us, and we have the opportunity to be the generation that makes that historical change in combating the challenges that we're faced with what I've shared there, as well as socioeconomic inequality and inequity, and overcoming these challenges require innovative solutions. And that is where Generation Power comes to the forefront, looking to empower the Indigenous youth of today and of tomorrow in noting a historic moment in creating that change for the future. So we are incredibly excited to share and introduce our program, Generation Power. And I'll speak a little bit about the model that has been inspired from a very in-depth process of research and exploration, which Sam will share about in a moment. But the model of Generation Power is based upon 5 key elements. As you can see here, there are 5 key elements. And first, we're going to look at introductory clean energy training. This is 6 months where Indigenous youth will learn and be introduced to the clean energy economy, have an overview and an insight into what that looks like. With that being one element, another is employer supports. Future Ancestors, employer equity, looking at training for employers in creating spaces of anti-racism and what that will look like. Another component is mentorship. Mentorship is embedded and integrated throughout the training of Generation Power for Indigenous youth And it's a really important component to foster a supportive relationship where youth feel supported and empowered going forward. Another component I'll mention is culture and leadership. Again, this is integrated throughout the entirety of the program. And most significantly, following 6 months of clean energy training, as well as employer equity training, youth and employers will come together for an on-the-land culture camp. And that is something I'm really looking forward to, and will be a significant highlight, a pinnacle moments for the program where folks will come together on the land for the culture camp. And finally, following the culture camp is employment, an experiential learning opportunity and internship where youth and employers are paired together for their endeavors going forward. And that is a quick look at the 5 key elements of the model for Generation Power. And I'll pass it back to Sam to share a little bit about what inspired this model. Over to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we came to land on these 5 elements of Generation Power that Ricky Lee just spoke about. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story of our journey to this moment. So over the summer months of 2020, I had an incredible opportunity to join the team at ICE with a specific focus to look at the potential for youth programming through this organization. And this is something that I'm super passionate about and something that I've worked in for a while now. And I'm so grateful to the ICE team who kind of, set us up for so much success, brought together an amazing team of Indigenous youth that we could collaborate with to really create this program that is ultimately Indigenous youth-led for Indigenous youth. So in my work with ICE over the summer, a big key part of how this program came to be was research. So we spent a ton of time just looking at, the environment, other youth programs that were happening around Canada, other Indigenous youth-specific programs that were happening. We looked at policies that were in place to support this kind of training and this kind of capacity building, as well as experiential learning opportunities, and also looking at, future trends. So where is the clean energy sector going? What do we know about trends in education, about, artificial intelligence? How is that going to be impacting our energy sector? And how can we really prepare for that future through this kind of capacity building program? So everything that Generation Power is made up of is really grounded in this deep research practice, taking a look at, everything that exists and kind of where we want to go in the future. But importantly, we didn't just rely on research. We also relied heavily on collaboration, Indigenous youth leadership, and employer engagement. So over the summer months, I had the chance to connect with other Indigenous youth through ICE, those of us interns who were there over the summer working together, as well as some external partners. So for example, we had the chance to chat with Seven Jen, who you may have been introduced to during the e-gathering this week, and really start to collaborate on these ideas of, what makes a really good experience as an intern? What makes a really terrible experience as an intern? How can we learn from some of these experiences that we have had as youth and start to bring that experience into Generation Power, into this capacity building program? So we got to do some, design thinking together where we were all around the virtual table, as it were, and really kind of sharing ideas, sharing experiences, from Indigenous youth, from our intern team, but also from the great team at ICE, and really kind of looking for opportunities for that intergenerational collaboration and learning that comes from those great shared spaces. So all of that to say that we worked with a lot of people to start to pull this program together. And some really key partners and collaborators were our employer partners. So through the ICE network, through existing relationships at ICE, we also had a chance to engage with some employers in the energy sector to do some targeted research and engagement around, what are the current practices around, Indigenous internships at your company? What are the current practices around, workplace equity, what's working out really well, where could you use support, and how can we look at a way to create an Indigenous youth capacity building and employment program that supports Indigenous youth, allows us to show up into the space with our experience, with our strengths, with our passions, but also that supports employers along the way as well. Because we recognize, that when we're engaging in, an employment relationship and an intern relationship, there's two sides of that coin. So how can we support, both ourselves as Indigenous youth, but also employers who are, engaging through this program, who really want to be participating in something like Generation Power. So all of this kind of is to say that the background work leading up to this launch really aimed to be collaborative, based in research, based in community, and really connected to culture and kind of some of the values and worldviews that we hold in the way in which we learn. So that's kind of the process that we went through, and I'm going to turn it back to Ricky Lee, who's going to explain a bit more about where we're at today.
For sure. Really, as you can hear from what Sam shared, the process was very in-depth, from looking at the extensive research of where are the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities, what can change, and looking at the clean energy economy, the needs of Indigenous youth, of our communities. What was identified were the gaps existing. And it wasn't only through research, but through collaboration. And this is a community-based approach that completely informs the development of Generation Power. And with Sam's mention of design thinking, that's something we're going to be doing later this session, which I'm really excited for, because your perspective will help inform the continued growth of this program and making the impact that is needed for our world. So with that said, it leads to where we are right now. Generation Power, it is holistic, it is strength-based, and with identifying the gaps existing, Generation Power and the ICE team seeks to address these gaps. And integrated throughout is culture and other components of looking at empowering Indigenous youth, as well as clean energy employers as well. And moving forward from the model that we have here, there are 4 overarching goals with this 3-pathway approach. The major goals is looking at addressing TRC, UNDRIP, shaping the future, dismantling systemic barriers, and again, as Sam mentioned, that intergenerational collaboration is critical to the development and growth of the program. There is a youth-led approach, employer-led approach, and a match-based approach, of which we look at this from. Following these 3 approaches, we are going to look at the major learning outcomes and goals for both the learner and the employer. With these 5 elements in mind, as you can see, both the learner and employer are part of each of these elements. It's not so much siloed, it's very integrated and collaborative in that way. And it's incredibly important to maintain those connections, as it really is with working together that we're stronger in that way. So with clean energy training, employer supports mentorship, employment, culture, and leadership. This is the journey map. Going forward, our target audience, again, is youth who are keen and curious to learn more about the clean energy economy and with a connection to culture and ancestral roots. And for employers, looking upon those who are looking at inspiring change in their organization and in the world around them, and having that willingness to see lived experiences as qualifications for youth who are looking at employment. Some key supports that do support this program: it's culturally grounded, mentorship is integrated, there's coaching, the land-based culture camp, experiential learning, as well as a wraparound support fund for youth who are upon this program. And looking at some of the partners we've built in development of Generation Power, with looking at the partnerships, these are some of the partnerships we have built, which have been, again, essential, as it is these conversations which have sparked the momentum that Generation Power is creating. And we're continuing to explore further partnerships going forward. But with this, these are our current partners. And a quick look upon the timeline. We see right now we're in January. We look upon developing our training, our content, introducing it to the S community, all of you, and the e-gathering of where we are in this very moment. Moving towards February, a lot of collaboration, working with our partners on content, funding, promotions, recruitment, and accreditation. More development throughout March and April. And this March and April will be the focused approach, focused intention upon recruitment. We're continually taking in names right now and building a list, but it will be March and April that we begin to release this further in building awareness of the program. Looking upon following those months, May throughout October is the 6 months of the clean energy training and employer equity training, followed by the online culture camp in October, and then the experiential learning opportunity of internships, and finally a celebration of the first cohort of Generation Power and all that has come to be, sharing teachings, experiences, and learnings from experiences shared in the program. And looking at what we have next here, from the timeline, a bit of a more in-depth look upon two major components for clean energy training. We have the Energy Futures training, which is the 6 months of introductory learning to the clean energy economy for Indigenous youth, followed by Energy Careers Deep Dive, which will follow the land camp and will be the internship experiential learning opportunity. And from clean energy training to looking at that further in depth, the Energy Futures training is comprised of 6 modules. You can see there of which each module is about, and within each module, there will be a webinar, descriptions, resources, and it's supported, it's structured, but also self-directed where learners can continually to engage with the material that is available there. With Energy Futures, this follows the deep dive component of learning. And looking at deep dive, it begins with a wandering map. What is a wandering map, you say? It's looking upon, again, seeing our lived experiences as qualifications, as those with a burning passion, desire, and intention to learn, to grow, to create better spaces for our communities. It's looking at the strengths, gifts, contributions we all have. From there, inspiring the next step of a career quiz, perhaps prompting what career pathway do I want to go on for the clean energy economy? What might exist? What career track do I want to look upon? And then exploring 9 different career tracks. Within, there is a day in the life video where we'll be featuring an Indigenous leader. And this is important because I remember when I was younger and just relating with my peers and folks, looking upon seeing ourselves represented in that future is really important to inspire that possibility and that confidence to take those first steps. Because throughout my experiences and what I share in these learnings is that really what it takes is knowing, one, what is that desired outcome, that dream, that destination of where we want to be. Second is the support and resources to get there, the pathway. And third is the confidence to take those first steps. These 3 components are integral towards working towards that dream pathway, that destination, that learning and growth. And this is the deep dives. And with that, we are going to jump over to design thinking because, again, we'd love your feedback, and this will help inform what will happen going forward in the future, ensuring that this program is as successful as it can be. So, over to you, Sam.
Awesome. Yes. So now that you kind of have an overview of what Generation Power is, what Generation Power is hoping to become, we are really excited to demonstrate this collaborative approach that we're taking to program development and implementation. So we're going to be doing a little design thinking activity together, very similar to what we have been doing throughout the process of creating Generation Power. So you're going to see in a moment a link pop up in the chat. And I would just encourage you to click on that link and head over to our Miro board, because that's where we're going to be collaborating. And I think this is a really kind of great introduction to the program, but also to getting some really critical feedback from you all. So we actually had a question come up in the chat. Thank you so much, from Kevin, who shared this question, and it's about mentorship. So, you know, there are a lot of us in this room, this virtual room, that have a lot of experience with, you know, the clean energy sector, maybe with community projects, with clean energy in general. And, you know, maybe some of you are looking for mentorship opportunities. How can you be involved with Generation Power as a mentor? And that's exactly something that we're going to be talking about in our design thinking exercise. So really, we are looking for your feedback, for your insight, for your advice, for your wisdom. And we're going to do that on this Miro board. So you can start to kind of, you know, get yourself situated on Miro. I'll add the link here again. And we're going to be doing a couple of activities. So one is called Liked, Learned, Lacked, and Longed For. So this is an activity where we want to hear from you. What do you like about what you've heard about Generation Power? What did you learn from us today through this presentation? What might be lacking from the program as you understand it currently? And what are you longing for, or what would you love to add to Generation Power to make it really successful? So that's going to be our first bit. We're going to go for about 10 minutes. And then the second bit, we have some more direct questions that we want to ask you. So we're hoping you can help us, you know, explore ways to, first of all, share the news about Generation Power. How do we get the word out that this program is coming to be? How can we reach Indigenous youth and clean energy employers who might want to be involved? What might recruitment look like in this way? How can we, you know, look at integrating cultural teachings into online learning platforms? So that's, I think, something that we've been navigating for a while now with the pandemic. So how can we do that in a good way? How can we create an accessible online learning environment for both mentors and employers, and also youth to be able to engage with effectively? And then finally, how can we support a really strong virtual cohort? So for those of you that are familiar with the Catalyst 2020 program, you know, cohort models of learning tend to be really successful. So how can we support that same kind of experience in a virtual environment? So that was a lot of information I just sent at you, but have no fear. We have some excellent moderators who are going to be joining you in breakout rooms in just a second. So again, navigate your way over to that Miro board using the link in our chat. And we're going to separate into 6 rooms. So once you land in your room with your moderator, they'll explain, you know, how to get familiar with Miro, how to use this platform, and how to walk through this activity together. So if our moderators, our facilitators, want to go ahead and turn their cameras on, let everyone know that you're here.
We're going to jump into breakout rooms just to make sure that works for everyone.
Excellent. Yes, we're going to be sending you all off into breakout rooms. So there's going to be, I don't know, about 10 to 15 of you per breakout room. So great chance for conversation and discussion as well.
Okay, I think we have to jump in there. I'm not sure if they hear us.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back from our breakout rooms. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Ricky Lee, are you here? There you are.
Oh, perfect. Here I am.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for engaging with us in this design thinking activity. I see so many stickies happening on this mirror board. So thank you again so much for your involvement, for your insight, for your wisdom. We really appreciate y'all connecting with us and engaging with us today. We're going to be wrapping up in about 6 minutes. But we also wanted to just leave some time for questions about generation power or anything that you discussed in your breakout rooms. So you can just put those in the chat if you like, and we would be happy to take questions at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the feedback and design thinking. And our team will send us questions. Feel free again to input it into the chat box or the Q&A box. And with the time we have left, we'll do our best to answer your questions. And feel free to write down some ideas and let us know what you think.
So we have one question here about if there's a cost associated with the program. Ricky Lee, do you want to take that one?
Sure. And looking at if there's a cost associated with the program, not necessarily. It's an opportunity. It's a competitive opportunity. Whereas in this first intake, the first cohort for youth who are applying, there will only be space for 20 Indigenous youth candidates across the country. And with that, there is support, the resources are there, and these 20 youth will be supported. And furthermore, there will be support for salary and things like this during the internship for youth.
We also have a question. What type of employers are you seeking as participants? Which is a great question. We're definitely focused on the clean energy sector, but also recognize that energy is transforming and we're changing the way that we think about energy. So clean energy sector as well as energy sector more broadly. So we call those, clean energy adjacent, but also, nonprofits who are working in the space of energy, governments, municipalities, as well as, utilities, project developers. We're keeping it pretty broad and open at this point.
Absolutely. And looks like the next question here is, what is the best way for potential partners to open up a dialogue with Generation Power leadership to explore whether or how partnerships can proceed? Reach out to us, to the team, if it's not already input already. Our email is right there. Feel free to send me an email at rwatts, Indigenous Clean Energy, and we can chat and have those conversations of what partnership may look like in any capacity, because we are certainly very open and want to collaborate and connect and build community around this work.
We also have a question. Can you share the slide deck and or where we can find info on the program to share? So more info on Generation Power is coming very shortly. If you follow Indigenous Clean Energy on social media, you'll be able to see our announcements there. And shortly coming will also be a Generation Power website where we'll have all the information that you can share. So stay in touch with Indigenous Clean Energy via social media. Reach out to Ricky Lee, as mentioned, so rwatts at indigenouscleanenergy.com, and we can stay connected that way.
Yes, absolutely.
We also just had a comment from Aaron that this workshop has been recorded, so you'll be able to access it at a later date as well.
Mm-hmm. So any questions looking at youth and the training? Again, the session will be recorded. You can view it in the future. But as we're wrapping up this session and preparing for the next session, again, send us those emails, stay connected, follow our social media, and stay tuned for what's next in the development of Generation Power. And I believe now is a good time to wrap up our session together. Just really, really want to thank all of you for being here for this moment. It's really historical, this really important moment in the announcement of funding and just where we are. It's really, really exciting, and just happy to have you join us in this journey and be here at the ICE gathering and announcing and sharing about Generation Power. So thank you all for being here, for listening, for sharing your ideas, your input, and joining the community around ICE and around Generation Power, and stay connected. We'll chat more, and really excited to connect with many of you going forward. And Sam, any final words?
If you wish to learn more about the employer supports specifically, we're going to pop on over to energy equity. That session is coming up right after this one. So if you want to learn more about that, feel free to join us. If you can't join us, that session will also be recorded. But yes, just echoing what Ricky Lee said, thank you all so much for attending today, for engaging with us, and more to come soon on Generation Power.
100%. Thank you, everyone. Click go.
Bye.